Would you like to know some completely useless information about Pokemon that will most likely never come up in your everyday life? Except maybe at a Pokemon themed quiz. Well, you came to the right video. From the blatantly obvious facts like Pikachu is yellow, to the not so obvious facts like Pikachu used to be a fat fuck, here are 20 pieces of knowledge about Pokemon, where some are obvious, some are not so obvious, but all of them are pretty much useless knowledge that you'll hopefully find interesting at first, and then forget about tomorrow. Or maybe by the slimmest of chances, this information will somehow become useful, in which case you're welcome. So let's begin. 20 completely useless facts about Pokemon, starting with... Now we know that certain Pokemon trios have specific words in their names to group them together even more. For example, the legendary birds names containing the Spanish words for 1, 2, 3, and the Hydreigon evolution line containing the German words for 1, 2, 3. But did you know that the Lake Trio also contains a secret group of words in their names? If you didn't know and can't figure it out, the words are you, me, us, even though it's as for Azelf. Nevertheless, the intention was you, me, us. So for the most part, Pokemon stat totals don't really mean anything, but there are some exceptions to this. Spiritom's defense stats are 108, since Spiritomb is associated with the number 108 quite a lot. Interestingly, Spinder and Whirlipede stat totals are 360, because, well, Spinder is dizzy all the time, and Whirlipede spins like a circle. So, 360 degrees. Yep, you can thank Spectre for telling me that one. Now there are many Pokemon pairs that act as polar opposites to each other, and one of those pairs happens to be Pikachu and Meowth. This was supposed to be a play on the whole cat and mouse thing. They're both on opposing teams in the anime, and the dex numbers are also flipped, with Pikachu's dex number being 25 and Meowth's being 52. So in a way, Pikachu and Meowth are kind of like the Tom and Jerry of Pokemon, which is a pretty cool thing to know. Or not. Girafarig is not too special of a Pokemon, but it does have something in common with Eevee and Ho-Oh. Do you already know? Well, if you don't, the useless fact about Girafarig is that like Eevee and Ho-Oh, its name is a palindrome, so its name backwards is the same forwards. What? I told you these facts were useless. Here's one that I actually wondered for a while about myself. So it's common knowledge that Mewtwo was cloned from Mew, meaning that Mew existed in the Pokemon universe before Mewtwo. Despite this, Mewtwo comes in the Pokédex before Mew. Why? I mean, I know that dex numbers aren't supposed to be the order of which Pokemon came first, otherwise Arceus would probably have been number 1, but both Mew and Mewtwo are in the same regional Pokédex, so you'd expect if there were two versions of a Pokemon that the original would have come first. So here's a fun Pokemon trivia question for you. What was the very first Pokemon shown in the anime? Was it Pikachu? Was it Nidorino and Gengar? Well, everyone knows that the first thing shown in the anime is the theme song, and Mewtwo was the first Pokemon shown in the English theme opening. So the answer is Mewtwo? No, it actually isn't. Yes, Mewtwo was the first Pokemon shown in the English opening, however the anime first aired in Japan, and the Japanese opening happens to be pretty different to the English version, meaning that the first Pokemon seen in the Japanese opening, and officially the first Pokemon seen in the anime, is... Charizard. The first Pokemon shown in the anime was Charizard. As if Charizard needed more attention. Smeargle can learn any Pokemon move. Is not actually true. Only counting Pokemon attacks from the main series games. Smeargle cannot learn the moves Chatter and Struggle. Struggle is kind of cheating, but it's still technically a move, I guess. As for Chatter, of all the Pokemon moves, they of course chose the most unfair move for Smeargle to have. Not Dark Void, not Geomancy, but Chatter. You know, the signature move of Chatot. I mean, wasn't that obvious? A lot of Pokemon had their names changed from the Pokemon Red and Green beta. Most people already know that Koffing and Weezing used to be called NY and LA at first, but they weren't the only ones who went through a name change. Here are some of my favourites. Jigglypuff and Wigglytuff's early names were Pudding and Custard respectively. Staryu and Starmie were, apparently, Starmie and Staryu. I guess for whatever reason they decided that their names suited one another. Lapras was called Ness, most likely to do with the Loch Ness Monster. the Machop line were named after real martial arts, and Cubone's original name was Orphan. That is just sad. What, does that mean Marowak's original name was Parent? Well, close. It was actually Guardia. But still, Orphan. Wobbuffet was designed by Hironobu Yoshida, a graphic designer for Pokémon. Now, you may not care about this fact at all, but do you know what other Pokémon he designed alongside Wobbuffet? Take some guesses if you don't. You would probably be surprised. So, the man behind the Pokémon Wobbuffet was also responsible for Celebi, Rayquaza, Deoxys, Magmortar, Darkrai, and Dunsparce. Yeah, who'd have thought the person behind the giant badass green dragon was also behind the derpy blue punching bag? Here are the 7 Pokémon professors so far. Can you work out which is the odd one out? And no, the answer isn't Juniper because she's the only female professor. That's pretty blatant. The actual odd one out is none other than Professor Rowan, because he's the only professor that isn't wearing a white lab coat. What a fascinating, totally useless fact about the professors. Why doesn't he wear a lab coat like the others? Maybe because he's the oldest professor? Or maybe because he's a f***ing badass, I don't know. Despite knowing the move Hidden Power, Unknown cannot use the TM for Hidden Power. That's because Hidden Power is the only move it gets, and in order to learn a TM, you have to have at least one other move that isn't the TM move that you're trying to learn. Additionally, Smeargle is another Pokemon that can learn a lot of moves, while at the same time not being able to learn TMs. Pretty interesting stuff, don't you think? Shiny Charizard did not look like this in Generation 2. Yeah, in Gen 2 quite a lot of shiny Pokemon look pretty different. One of the most interesting cases being Smeargle, where the original colour and the shiny colour were actually swapped entirely. But right now we're focusing on Charizard, since it's arguably the most popular shiny Pokemon overall. As I said, Charizard didn't have the black coating with the red wing colour. Instead, Charizard's shiny form looked like this, purple with a green wing colour. I highly doubt Charizard's shiny would have been nearly as popular if it kept this colour scheme, but luckily it did improve a generation later. Pokémon Crystal was able to communicate with cell phones in Japan. When Pokémon Crystal was released in Japan, the Pokémon System GB was implemented into the Japanese versions of Crystal. It wasn't available outside of Japan, and it only lasted about a year. But to think people were able to play Pokémon on their phone way before Pokémon Go existed, not including emulators, was pretty cool. The Pokémon mobile system basically allowed players to trade and battle others online, thanks to being connected to a phone. However, depending on what you wanted to do, it might have cost you a fee. To think that Pokémon had their own versions of microtransactions all those years ago. Some Pokémon can actually devolve. Kind of. While there's no way to legitimately make your Pokémon revert back to its previous evolution in the video games, there are some exceptions outside of the main series. According to Slowbro's Pokédex entries, if the Shelder is removed from its tail, it will revert back into a Slowpoke. I assume the same goes for Slowking then. There are also some cases of de-evolution in the manga and the TCG. However, the anime contradicts all this by saying that Pokemon can't devolve.
If you make Pikachu evolve, Ash, you can't change it back.
Pikachu will never be the same.
Although the anime also said that water types were weak to fire types, so the anime probably isn't the best source to trust. So as we know, at the start of a main series Pokemon game, we're introduced to a professor who then shows us a Pokemon. But did you know there's something quite off about the Nidorino that Professor Oak shows us in Red and Blue? Can you work it out? For those of you who still don't know, that wasn't the cry of a Nidorino, it was actually the cry of a Nidorina. Yeah, mind-blowing, I know. You can do this in the Gen 1 and 2 games. I remember discovering this as a kid years ago. Pretty cool. I think it's safe to say that everyone here knows what Brock's voice sounds like, and I can almost guarantee that you've heard Brock's voice actor in other shows. Now I'm not going to list all of them, but I am going to list possibly the most notable one. The one that blew my mind the most, which was
It was rejected by someone it loved. That's a terrible shock. Believe me, it's a terrible feeling. I could write a book about the secrets of love and heartache. Yugimoto, there's no escape. Nothing can save you now. Blue Eye's ultimate white dragon. Neutron blast attack.
The Johto back theme is actually a sped up version of another music theme, if you didn't already know this. Just listen. Pretty cool Easter egg if you ask me. There is a real protein that is named after a Pokémon. Okay, so this might be the least useless fact on the list, but unless you're training in the medical field, this info still probably wouldn't be that useful. Pikachurin is an extracellular, matrix-like retinal protein. Basically, it's something that helps your eyes be able to see, that is obviously named after Pikachu. It was apparently inspired by the Pokémon mascot's lightning-fast moves and shocking electric effects. I'll leave a link below if you want to learn more about this protein. But as for some additional knowledge, there's another protein that's named after Sonic the Hedgehog, that's just titled Sonic Hedgehog. There's also a genus of prehistoric pterosaurs called Aerodactylus, named after Aerodactyl, and an oncogene, ZBTB7, that was originally named Pokémon. And let's just say, it's a pretty good thing that this oncogene no longer shares its name with one of the most beloved video game franchises of all time. And the 20th useless fact about Pokémon is, the first Pokémon movie was at one point the highest grossing anime movie of all time. Yep, the first Pokémon movie was actually a pretty big success at the box office. Of course, the critical reception of the film wasn't good at all, but it's Pokémon. Non-Pokémon fans aren't going to really care and take the film that well. It's of course no longer the highest grossing anime film, being knocked off the top spot in 2001 by Spirited Away, which, let's be real, is a much better film than the first Pokémon movie is. In fact, a lot of Pokémon movies have done well at the box office, but it's nice to know that Pokémon was at one point at the top of anime films. And there you go. 20 facts about the Pokémon franchise that'll probably never come into use during your everyday life. Come to think about it, that's actually most Pokémon facts told in Pokémon fact videos. And I hope you enjoyed. Please leave a like if you did, subscribe for more Pokémon videos in the future, and until next time, thanks so much for watching.